This is a roundtable style. Any question that you do have, you let us know. But I'm so excited to have Kesha here because Kesha and I used to work together. And matter of fact, we were on the committee, on the diversity committee together for a while. And then you left me. Okay, hold on a second. You left me. All right. And so now we actually have a chance to get back together, which I think this is what life's about, right?
It really is.
So welcome, Kesha. Maybe if it's okay, maybe share your wonderful background, and then what are we talking about tonight? Something fun, right? Something great.
Yes, and I realized when I saw the topic that it doesn't look fun and great. It looks really dry and boring, and perhaps has some utility to it. But as I look at it in hindsight, I'm like, wow, that looks like a washer and dryer, not the Ferrari that it can that we can hop into to navigate careers. Um, but I didn't make up the terms. Uh, so, so yes, I'm Kesha Rodgers. I had the great pleasure of working with Tony when I was at CGen. I am in Act Two of my career, and so Act One of my career was in biotech, and so for 26 years, I worked primarily in clinical technology to support clinical trials. And so I have worn all the hats. I have been a business analyst. I've been a project manager. I have been an application configurator, which I think they called that for like 18 months. I've been called a reorg orphan because I worked at one company, Amgen, for 9 years when it went through explosive growth. And they redid the career ladders, it seemed like every 6 months. And so I would get reorged into other groups. And what it created for me, and I hope, Dorothy, that this gives you some hope, what it created for me was this really unique opportunity to consistently do technology work, and then as a supporting function. So I started actually with data entry, and back in the days where that was something that was actually a job.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And because it was a useful skill, and because I also was like, why are you doing this in a spreadsheet? Have you heard of databases? And so we would move things to databases, and then I would learn more and more about the business. And then when they'd reorg and that department would contract or expand, they'd say, hey, those skills are useful over here. And so over the course of years, I got to see different perspectives of how drugs are developed. And it was intended to be a part-time job until I figured out a way to get back to, I hadn't even finished college yet. I had been planning to be an English teacher, and this was a great paying job while I was doing that work. And before I knew it, it had been almost 30 years, and I was still doing that work. But a lot of that, again, in support of clinical trials, moving on to the point where I was leading teams that were finding solutions to help accelerate clinical trials and increase user adoption. And that led to a career in organizational change management, which is where I met Tony in IT, setting up the first change management office for a company called CGen, actually now called Pfizer, like many other companies. And I've also had the opportunity to work at other big and small biotech and pharma companies. And one big tech company, I worked for Oracle for, goodness gracious, maybe about 4 years. And that was an interesting conversation for perhaps for another time, an interesting job opportunity that we might talk about another time. But in short, I got a phone call that said, please stop complaining about our products and help us fix them. So I ended up having a fantastic time working at Oracle for a while. But that said, that was Act One. Act One was this, I would say, fortuitous but accidental technology related career. And after working at CGen for many years and working with Tony on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee focused on the Black Employee Resource Network for Black employees, I shifted completely at the request of the company to become their head of diversity, equity, and inclusion. It was an amazing experience. It was an eye-opening experience, and it's what led me to my second act. And if it's all right with you, I will share a slide. I have a few, and we can either share them, or if it's, since this is going to be a podcast, I'm happy, Tony, to just look at them myself. But actually, why don't we do it that way?
That's
so
perfect.
the audience doesn't miss out on anything.
That's
But
it.
in short, in 2020, when so many of us uh, basically watched the racial reckoning that was happening at the time, I started a labor of love business to promote and support Black-owned businesses. We were curating Black-owned products, mostly locally made, into gift boxes. And before I knew it, that business had taken off. And that business turned into another business where basically I had been going to conferences to talk about the power of inclusion and how it can help the economy. And I had expected for everyone at these conferences to flock to buy these Black boxes as corporate gifts.
Right.
And instead, what happened is that they flocked to me to say, can you give this talk at my company? And can you help us build a network and support for employees? And so that turned into a consulting and training business called the Ally League. And so right now, I am a full-time entrepreneur in Act Two of my career. I still do a little bit of clinical technology consulting, mostly in the analytics space. But for the most part, I spend a lot of my time talking to people of color, Black people specifically, because our experience in tech is really unique.
Mhm.
And we are brilliant people and have a lot to offer. And so many of the world's problems can be solved a lot faster when there's more of the brilliance, the resilience, the so many other things that make up the Black experience in the US. If more of us are involved in creating the solutions that solve world problems and keep us moving every day.
Yeah.
So with that led me down the path to doing these workshops. And because we have a small group, and I know the others might be doing a little multitasking, feel free to participate as often as you can and want to, because I'd love for this to be a conversation after I lay the groundwork um, about cultural capital, which has been a new term for me in terms of the terminology, but a really familiar concept I think we'll all find um, once you understand where we're coming from.
Yeah.
So I'd like to take, well, before I get started, I'm wondering if I could ask a question, and I'll give you a moment to contemplate it.
Okay, good.
But I'm wondering, what is your wildest and most audacious career aspiration?
Pilot.
To be
I'd,
a pilot?
I'd love to be a pilot. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that idea. Doreti or either of you have anything that you'd like to add? A wild or audacious career aspiration?
Um, Medical school. I considered it at some point. Yeah.
That's great.
For me, it's something I'm living right now, leading and developing a 15,000 plus 28 chapter nonprofit at age 62. I started, and so I did not like. I like what you said about Act One, Act Two. I'm not sure which act I'm in, but this is fun. It's audacious and rewarding.
Oh my goodness, and it is appreciated. I can tell you that firsthand myself. And I will be talking with Tony afterward to see if a former technology career can still qualify me to be a part of Seattle BUiLT, the Seattle BUiLT chapter, even though I'm not fully 100%. My career isn't totally dedicated to technology any longer.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely, by the way. Absolutely. This
all right.
this is where things are magic, right? It's you have friends, you have people in business, and matter of fact, Doreen and I we were just talking about this before you got on, that you're in this situation. But when you know and you get to meet other people, it just makes it easier because we're all, as you know, maybe the job titles are different, but we're all
Mhm.
literally trying to do a lot of the same things. Even internationally, I go internationally, and in those places, people are all trying to do, you know, the similar thing. So being able to do it together, that's where the magic happens. So absolutely.
It
Absolutely.
really, really does. Yeah, and that there's such power in our village,
Mhm.
and I am. It's an honor to be a part of it, and I'm really looking forward to officially being a member of it very soon.
Great.
So my own Similar to Peter, I am living my own audacious career aspiration right now. I have dreamed of owning my own business and thought it completely unattainable for a long time. And it happened all of a sudden and largely by accident. It was unintentional, the growth of the business. It was like, I just wanted to help my community. And since then, I feel like I have another audacious aspiration the next day and the next day. And so I'd say that another aspiration I have is to build a different kind of unicorn one day. And that's to create a company that sustains itself. Basically, I'd like to create a unicorn co-op, not like Costco, but one where entrepreneurs can have the support that they need. A lot of us don't take the leap because our society has structures in it, like healthcare being tied to corporate employment, good healthcare being tied to corporate employment, that keep us from, that make it more risky than it might otherwise need to be. Yes. So that's my audacious career aspiration. And I've asked you all to keep those things in mind because we're going to keep this discussion open. There'll be more questions while we talk about how cultural capital is something that has been in use for as long as society has existed. And for a long time, it's been a framework that has limited our participation in free market, in entrepreneurship, in leadership, and climbing the hierarchy or the ladder in corporate America. And there have been so many shifts in the last 15 years in general, and especially in the last, I'd say, 5 to 6, that have made our culture, what makes each of us unique personally, more valuable. The thing is, because we haven't had the opportunity to participate in using our culture as capital, we haven't been able to reap the benefits and make deliberate investments. And so our discussion today is about having that aspiration, whatever it is, and it can change every day, but understanding that you've got capital that you can invest. It may not be financial or economic capital, but you've got capital in who you are and in our culture that can help you to navigate your way through society and especially through the workplace in ways that can help you to achieve what you want to achieve faster than you might otherwise.